guess maybe Rob and Enoch can both just talk to us about your thinking behind appointing Aiden Markram, and then also leaving Temba Bavuma out of the T20 squad. What's the kind of thinking behind that?
I'll take it one. Look, Aiden obviously has shown himself to be a leader over a period of time now. Obviously his most recent success with the Sunrisers stands out. So it seemed like just a logical progression really into the leadership of the national side. He has been there before, but I think he's matured a lot as a player and as a leader since then. So yeah, I mean, Aiden's certainly a leader in the group, has been for a long time. As I said, it seemed like a logical progression for him to take over the reins. Yeah, as for Temba missing out, I think that's purely a T20 performance-based decision. And my job now is to work with him to get him back into the side. So that'll certainly be one of our focuses.
Rob, what was your conversation with Faf like, and what were the sort of reasons that we're not seeing him back, and maybe to Enoch as well, from CSA's side? Is there still, from your guys' perspective, conversations going on with him, or is this it sort of for his international career?
Yeah, thanks for that. If I may just jump in there. Look, there were conversations, obviously before the World Cup, with then obviously the selection panel and the coach, and then we did conclude obviously those conversations in terms of the way forward. But we've always been open to to talks with our sort of freelance players, and having spoken to obviously the coach Rob, he is very much interested to resume those conversations and see how best we can actually all of us work together moving forward. And from a Cricket South Africa point of view, we're happy to engage, and let's see how we find the best way forward.
Rob, most South Africans who go to a place like New Zealand don't come back because the lights stay on, for one thing. Why did you come back? Is it just the lure of coaching an international side, or can you talk us through your decision making?
I mean, it's fairly simple. When you get an opportunity to coach, your country of birth and a place whose cricket structures I've been part of pretty much my whole life in some way. When that opportunity arrives, it is really a no-brainer, to be honest. To coach internationally is probably every coach's dream when they set out. So I'm no different to that. When I left to New Zealand, it was to grow myself as a coach really and develop my coaching skills, grow as a person, which certainly has happened over the 7-year period, and an opportunity presented itself to come back and coach a Proteas. So yeah, amazing opportunity.
Just a reminder, we will also be supplying the press conference footage just in case. Who would like to call you first and go first again?
I just want to ask you about the way forward, the thinking, because we've been through a couple of heartbreaks in World Cups, especially in the T20 format as well as the ODIs, and your ODI World Cup coming up very soon in India. So what's your thought process behind the way you want to play the game and your integration of youngsters going forward in the future?
I suppose start with the second part of the question. From an integration point of view, I mean, you've seen a few new faces in these squads, so that's ultimately part of the process to broaden the base of players that have got international experience. Given that the World Cup is this year, it seemed the most logical time to start that now. As far as how we want to play the game, I think you've probably got a little window into it against England. Certainly that was a blueprint for how we want to move forward with the way we play the game, and we'll just be continuing on that. Obviously the task for the new younger guys coming into the side will be to find their way in that brand and bring their own set of skills onto the park.
Just in terms of the Faf story and the freelancers story, is there talk of splitting contracts when the next contracting cycle comes up, or giving guys one format contract? So just where's that conversation going?
Yeah, in terms of contracting, I mean, we continuously ourselves in SACA engaging in that aspect to ensure that we remain proactive, because the reality is that a lot is evolving at the moment in our cricketing landscape. So we're trying our utmost best to put our front foot, on the contracting side of things. So yes, as it stands, there is a format contract, but obviously quite a number of players they're still committed to all three formats. Some players are only white ball, some are only red ball. What we foresee in the near future, maybe even the next 12 months, might even go more specific into T20, ODIs and test. So those are some of the things that we're actually looking at, and we're going to continue to work on.
We'll take one from Ken over there.
Rob, you've spoken about the ODI squad and obviously quite a few changes to that squad that played against England. But the T20s, there are not many changes to the World Cup squad. Can you just talk around, I think maybe some people expected, like, especially with the SA20 and kind of like a new cycle, T20 World Cup cycle, maybe more new faces in the T20 squad?
Obviously a fair enough assessment of it. I think the main thing there is once we decided to give some new faces an opportunity in the 50 over format, then giving guys time in the middle and competitive time in the middle in the lead up to those Dutch games became important. So for me, the T20 build up will begin a little bit later, and the new faces will be seen a little bit further down the track. Possibly the Australia series is where that might take place. But yeah, for now the ODIs was our specific attention.
Okay, my question first is for Mr. Nkwe. I know it's early days, but what is your particular objective? What have you set for Mr. Rob Walter to achieve? And for Mr. Walter himself, for you this year, what are you hoping to achieve with this team? What are your short and long-term goals, in fact, as Proteas white ball cricket coach?
Mine is pretty simple. Obviously, is to win the World Cup. Ultimately, obviously, the big one is 2027. So we can't afford to lose sight of 2027 World Cup. But in saying so, there are opportunities, including this year, to try and win one of the ICC events. There's an ICC event every single year. So there's no pressure on him, to try and win this year. Obviously, if we do, that would be a hell of a job. That would be very, very special. But again, even if we do win this year, we don't want to lose sight of obviously the bigger picture of the home World Cup. And we got to ensure that together we all work together to ensure that we build up the pool of players that we believe will be part of the bigger picture as well. So yes, I can't really go into much detail in terms of performance agreements and all of that, but ultimately, yes, is to win the World Cup, and he's excited about the opportunities and actually what also lies ahead.
Yeah, not much to add on to that. You've heard it from the big boss's mouth in terms of what the objectives are. Beyond that, I'll say that time and time again, we want to broaden the base of players that are playing international cricket. We want to give some experience over the next 4 years, and ideally by the time we reach a World Cup here in South Africa, that we'll have a side that's fully representative of the country, but players that have also represented their country a number of times before that World Cup starts.
Thanks. We're going to go Carly, Stu, then Ken.
Rob, so you mentioned the ODIs obviously against England, etc. And it's my understanding that you and Shukri will be working together when it comes to speaking selections, etc. So I just want to know what your relationship is like with Shukri Conrad, and do you have like a similar mindset when it comes to both formats of the game actually?
You'll have to ask Shooks, but from my side, I think we get on great. I've always enjoyed talking the game. I certainly was very excited to find out that he would be the test match coach. And in respect to the way we see the game, we see it in a very similar manner. I think the way that you saw that ODI side play against England is just us speaking the same way in terms of how we'd like the team to play. So we don't differ in that regard. Probably our method in terms of getting there might differ slightly, obviously, because we aren't the same people. But I thoroughly enjoy working with Shukri, thoroughly enjoy his insights on the game and the players in the country, obviously, who I've not seen all of them for a period of time.
Thanks. Sorry to ask this again, but it's now less than 3 weeks ago before the Dutch series. and with the IPL starting at the same time, where you publicly stated you negotiating with people over in India, so where do you stand? I mean, everybody that, all the South African contracted players that are in the IPL, are they going to be available for those 2 games?
Yes, as it stands, they are available. We have been, engaged with IPL, BCCI as well. So the obviously selected players are going to be available for the 2 ODIs. Obviously unless not selected, then that's a different thing. But in terms from a selection point of view, those who are selected, yes.
Rob, can I ask which English football team you support?
The side that won 7-0 last night. So
what would you tell them after a game like that? And I'm obviously connecting this to what you might tell a very victorious South African side.
Liverpool, I would tell them, no, I think the reality is that you got to trust in a process. It was just last season that a side like Liverpool were very successful and pushing on winning the quad, which never happened. However, they were highly successful, and then they've been through a bit of a ropey start to their season, but ultimately showed what they were capable of last evening. And so for me, from a South African cricket point of view, is I'm buoyed by the quality of cricketers that I see around. The SA20s bears testament to that. A lot of different cricketers playing good cricket. And so for me, I suppose the best analogy I can use is I think the South African cricket side has and always been a very good cricket side. We want to turn it into a great cricket team. But the journey between good to great is short, but it's the hardest part of the journey to make, and that's where we're stuck right now. So that's what we'll be focusing on. But it's not as if we're talking about the cricketers that are not quality cricketers. They are. We've seen that time and time again.
Are there any other further questions? We'll go with those.
Rob, what did you gain from your time in New Zealand, and is there anything from there that you think you can bring to this system? Because obviously the challenges are different here, right?
We need a lot longer than this press conference to talk about what I've learned in New Zealand. But no, I think personally, from a personal point of view, is very much almost a journey of discovery around coaching. The short summary of the trip was I left a very successful Titan side to a side that lost and came last in almost every format for 2 years. So if you want to learn about what your real values around coaching is, you just need to lose a lot, which I did. So I think that was the first thing, is the genuine love for the art and the job of coaching, which is ultimately just to help people maximize and reach their potential. And I don't see that any different to being here with the South African side. So it's having a grasp of my roles and my values in terms of trying to achieve that with whichever side that I coach, and now it's the Proteas. And along with that is, I suppose there's learnings to be done in terms of the ways to communicate things, ways to do things more effectively. From a skill development point of view, there's a lot out there, a lot of good coaches offering up great IP around how to grow the game and develop players. So, that's all part of the journey, which probably all coaches are doing all the time, but that was certainly my journey in New Zealand.
We'll go one more.
Can I just ask Diego Brevis, what's your plans with him in the future?
Brevi for me forms a category of a lot of young, exciting cricketers that are in the system. We saw quite a number of them participating in the SA20, and so the job and the journey with him will be exactly the same as it is for the others. Trying to find opportunities below the Proteas level to give him access to, which is just above provincial level where he's played. I think the tournament would have given him some insight as to the areas that he needs to develop in his game, along with many others. And so there's an X factor there that is exciting, and now we just need to give it the foundations and the pathway to grow and be ready internationally.
Cool. I'm going to take the last few questions now. We'll start with Kanisa, then probably.
Good afternoon, Rob. Just to further elaborate on Enoch's question with regards to the availability of players, but just looking at what's going to happen in New Zealand, how much of an eye are you going to be keeping on the Sri Lankan New Zealand series? Because there's if I'm correct, it's going to be run quite concurrently with your series against the Netherlands.
I suppose first thing first, I'm a bit of a cricket nuffy, which means I watch all cricket all of the time. So I'll certainly have an eye on the series. There'll be a couple of guys who I've coached along the way, who I'll always watch with interest to see how they're going along. But I mean, the long and short of it is there isn't much that we can do about it other than watch and see what we can take out of it. Hopefully the Black Caps do what they need to do and secure that series. And then we still have to take care of our business, you know, which everything else becomes irrelevant if we don't take care of that first.
So Rob, we've been through quite a few batting coaches in a short period of time. So I just want to know from JP Dumini's perspective, what do you expect it to bring? Is it more technical or mental side?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, batting is as much mental as it is technical. So for me in JP, I just see a wonderful human being who really is dedicated towards helping players. With that, he brings his experience of being a player, which for me is gold. You know, he's stood in the cold face. He's made errors under pressure. He's also done well under pressure. So being able to walk the journey with these players, having had his experience, I think is awesome. But at the same time, his knowledge of coaching has grown over the last couple of years, and those that have been involved with him speak highly of the work that he's done with him. So I'm excited to see what JP has to offer in our space.
One last question.
Rob, you speak about obviously the talent that you've got at your disposal, but how important is it working on the mindset of the team itself, especially when it comes to those major tournaments, ICC tournaments?
I mean, mindset is everything. I think, as I said, I keep referencing the England series, where we sort of probably demonstrated to ourselves what that mindset might look like in practice, because the rest of the time it's theoretical, right? You're talking about what it might look like, what it might feel like, and there we had a real physical taste of what the mindset might look like in its execution. So it's just about continuing to encourage that and grow that. I think at the base level, it's just that when we find ourselves under pressure, that we take the most aggressive approach that we possibly can with the skill set that we have. And so we're just keeping encouraged that with that comes making errors. As long as we can put those into context and keep edging forward, I'm happy.